Morning guys, hope you're all well. Not been around for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I've been on holiday and I've been away with work, so I've been a little bit lapse in content over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So this weekend I'm back in the loft, as you can see, and I thought I'd start these next few videos off with giving you a shop tour. If you've watched my channel before, you know that this is the loft of my small 2-bedroom house. The usable part that I use between the rafters here is 14 foot from front to back, and I've got about a 7 foot of usable space from side to side, and then as the roof goes down into the eaves I've got some storage around there, but that's mostly storage at the lower levels. At the eaves is kind of family stuff, Christmas tree, Christmas decorations, some camping stuff, and just various bits of clutter that you assemble as a family over the years. I've used this space as a workshop for about 2, maybe 3 years. Before that, I used to have, where the camera is now stood, I used to have a bike on a turbo trainer sat here facing a TV on that far wall, and I used to do my triathlon training up here. Like anything, if you live in a relatively small house, you're always looking for that little bit of extra space. Now people have said to me, why don't you just get a shed, move in a shed? The garden's just simply not big enough. It's the size of a postage stamp. I've got a shed in the garden that's about, I think it's a 6 foot by 3 foot shed. It's got the lawnmower in, and so I do tend to work outside when it's nice, especially in the summer and it actually gets too hot in here. Today's a relatively cool day after 30 odd degrees yesterday. We forecast rain later and it's going to be down to about 16 degrees. Hey, that's the British summer for you. Today it's quite manageable in here. When it's 30 degrees outside, this place is just like an oven. Well, we've got the weather on our side, and apologies for my eyes, I'm really suffering from the hay fever at the moment. I thought I'd give you a tour. I did one last year around about the same time, but lots and lots has changed since last year. So let's start at this end of the workshop and work round, and I'll explain why and the wherefores of everything as I go round. So right, let's get on. This corner down here, really there's nothing much going on. A little bit of maybe future adaptation down here possible, but at the moment I've got an old Polk workbench, which is what I used to take outside before I made my portable workbench. I've actually got a project in mind for that, so that might appear on the channel soon. And then I've got some household paints and my suitcases. And then under here, you can see that there, that's the electric supply for the loft. I've actually had a dedicated supply put in from the mains downstairs, so everything up here can be turned off at that consumer unit. Whilst we talk about the electrics under there, not really changed that much of the electrics up here over the last year. I have installed a lot more lights, so it's a lot brighter in here now. Moved a socket over there which was down under at the floor level where the dust extractor used to plug in. I've moved that to the opposite wall, which just makes it a lot more easy to turn the dust extractor on and off. And also on the socket here, for one with a couple of USBs in, just so I can keep the cameras charged while I'm up here. And whilst I upgraded the lights, I also put in these Proplex sheets between the rafters. First of all, make it a little bit more reflective and a little bit lighter, and also it's just protecting the underfelt that's under there. And also the underfelt gave off a lot of grit. You ended up with, everything was covered, the benches and everything, over time always ended up in a little sort of a covering a grit, so that stops all that falling off as well. When I first moved into the workshop here, I made these little shelves between the trusses just for storage, but just on here I've just got a selection of hand tools. I've got a router there, I've got a biscuit jointer, electric hand planer, an ordinary sander, I've got an old circular saw there, jigsaw, joinery sample that I cut for the channel, and then my new Able assistant. Hey Google, good morning.
Hello, the time is 8:07 AM. Here is your daily joke. Why can't eggs keep a secret? They tend to crack under pressure. Have a good one.
Right, okay, that's enough Google for the day. When it really is hot in here, I like to have my fan on, but of course fans, workshop, dust, it all comes with consequence. So that's that shelf. Shelf here is a change from last year. This shelf did actually go all the way along here, and I cut out the centre section. I've got the TV aerial up there, so got to have some storage up there, but the centre section I cut out because sometimes I have my bandsaw stood in there. So at the moment this is just a void, but I can get my bandsaw in here now, so I just took this shelf out. And then I've got my bench bull that I made a few weeks ago for my benches. That's just stood there, along with the rest of the paints there, which is mainly sort of household paints. It's mainly stuff left over from painting the house. My DeWalt circular saw stands there, usually, and at the moment with the circular saw, with my screws and various bits and pieces, I do intend to put some drawers in there. They're all the drawer runners. Down in the corner here is my table saw sled, which I don't use now. I've got the Festool, so that's going to be dismantled, and the parts are going to be used on another project which will be coming soon. Might even be the next project. Stood there at the moment is my record bandsaw. Nice little bandsaw, probably the best bandsaw and the heaviest bandsaw I could actually get up here. I think the next size up, is that the 350, was just too big for my space. That's perfect. And then that stood on top of my cart with my little spindle sander in. So I made that at the end of last year, and also it being on drawer runners, I can just clip it off from the drawer runners and just take it up to bench levels if I want to do some prolonged sanding. And the whole thing, of course, is on wheels. The first major tip for working in a small workshop is put absolutely everything on wheels that you can, including yourself. Depending on what your project is, you end up having to slightly reconfigure the workshop just to get around your workpiece or machine something. So I find it fantastic that large items are just on wheels and I can just move everything around. While these trusses are at 600 centres, nearly everything will actually slide between them as well, so I can push something out of the way, with the exception of the DeWalt Table saw, which is about 3mm too wide to go through any gap, so that's why it lives at the end of the workshop. Moving on from the bandsaw, first thing I built when I came up here years ago with this sort of workbench, thinking I'd have a workbench between the rafters. In essence, it never worked properly, and it ended up just being a dumping ground for tools. So it's pretty much where I have the majority of my most used tools spread around. It does get out of hand, and one of the projects over the next few weeks is actually to try and come up with some proper tool storage solutions. But anyway, I haven't even got my head figured out how I'm going to do that yet. I know this French cleat system is fantastic as their individual little things are. I don't know whether it's for me. I'm a bit too messy to put things back every time I use it, so I need to sort something out. But I think the main thing I need to sort out is tool storage in my mind, because I just use it, put it down, and then spend another 5 minutes looking for it next time I want it. So I need to sort the process out in my mind before I can sort the process out in the workshop, if that makes sense. Stood up on there is my little Screwfix, little birthday present from the wife a couple of years ago. That's probably before the times of COVID, actually, when you could get tools relatively cheap and relatively quickly. This is the cheapest drill press that Screwfix sold. I think it was less than £50, like an Energer 350. It is what it is. It's a £48 drill press, but when you need a drill press, it's great. But if you were using it day in, day out, I'm sure it'd drive you insane, because it does have a few quirky little actions. A few bits of camera gear, some little bits of lights here. I like these two lights here. First of all, they are photography lights, and you can change the colour and the warmth, and and you can drop them on the floor. And let's have a look. You can change the colours, blues is, I don't know why you'd want that one. But also, what's really good about these, and these are relatively cheap, they're less than £30 each. I've got two, is the back is magnetic. So when you're working on the bandsaw, and just stick them on like that, really useful. If you're looking for a bandsaw light, they're not a bad investment. Under the bench, I just have some drawers with some random stuff in. And again, as I've just said, I really need to work out a process. Majority of my tools. So yeah, I need to sort all that out. And actually, these drawers are double depth because of the depth of the thing. So she's got another one behind that. I think even if you didn't want the workshop in your loft, I think to create a drawer storage like this for just everyday storage was a good idea. And then under here I've just got various bits of timber. That is an half finished project that I started filming for you guys and not finished it yet. I need to get on with that. And then I've got my glue up bars under there, another project. That's my offcut box. Moving on to the end of this bench, I've got my new pull-out planer cart. This was the last piece of large equipment that I had stood on the floor for months. I always seem to have one piece, the saw, the bandsaw, the sander, then this stood on the floor. So I made this cart 6 weeks ago now. I couldn't actually think initially how I was going to build this cart, because to wheel it under the benches, it had to be at low level. I didn't really want that. To have it up at eye level, it were in the way, so it could sit on the bench. It's heavy. It's probably the heaviest piece of kit that's in here. And as I've said earlier, I always ended up making a mess of these benches anyway. They were just a pile of stuff. So I thought I would sacrifice a third of it and build this. So I'm quite happy with that. I quite like the... when it's not being used, it slides in the racks, and that's got some timber in there. It's got my moisten tenon jig for the the moisten jig for the saw. It's got my sander, it's got my glues in there, it's got my jigs in there somewhere for the thickness planer, the bevel and the chamfer jigs. It's got the fence for the router table. Just trying to make as much use of any little bit of space I have as I develop the workshop. Next door from the planer cart is my dust extraction cart. Again, another project on the channel. Just wheels in there. Sits there, a dust cyclone separator on the top of it. And then this interchangeable board on the front where I can plug in different hoses I have. That's my standard hose. I've got my Rockler small part hose. All goes in there. Also goes in the same hole. Or I can swap that for my actually a garden pond hose with two cuffs on the end, and that goes in there. And then on the end of there I've got the DeWalt I can't really call that now. I've got the DeWalt end for the DeWalt sander and the table saw. So that's my hoses. And above that I have this TIE Fighter shaped timber support for my hoses, so I can suspend the hose over there when I'm using my Festool. So at this end of the workshop there's quite a lot goes on. It's quite a busy end, much more busy than that end. So I'll move. So first of all I have my Trend air helmet, and I have my workbench that pulls out. It was made specifically to go in the gap between the roof trusses. That's just a sacrificial board I had on the top of the last time I used it. So I have my half MFT worktop bench based on a Ron Paul style design. So I have bits and pieces of hand tools in there. In fact, that looks like it could do a little bit of an hoover out in there. And then under there I have my Benchdog kit, which I really like, and my Festool sustainer I think, and then just various bits of hand tools. That's my sort of everyday workbench, the one that I use for most of my glue ups. And usually when I'm using it, it kind of sits there. And I've got my little cradle with my pull-out 1400mm pull-out Festool bench. I want to do some cutting on there. I've got my fold-down Festool cut station with my newly designed piece of timber rather than the legs. Won't take too long to put that together, so that's that up. The little saw rail support guide that I made under there. The Benchdog rail and square there. This table is now, and with a Festool saw, has now replaced the mitre saw. Really, since I bought this and made this table, I don't really use the mitre saw anymore. Those can go there. Then I thread that through there. and then I've got the cable and the saw is just expanded, and for cross cutting things up to 1 metre long or a bit more, it's fantastic. I really like it. Festool has become, I mean, yes, it was an extravagant purchase, but it's by far my most favourite tool. At that end of it, I've got a little bit more room now. There was something stood under that polythene sheet for the last few years, and that's now gone. So that's given me a little bit more room, and there's a few more bits and pieces to tidy in that corner, and I've actually got another little area I can explore. So I'm not using that system. Just take this down, leave that down there. Gives me a little bit more room in the workshop. Then in this corner I just have my router table. Not my most used tool. Just comes out. Router table, I have the big Triton Router inset in a Craig top, and a little dust shield on the front, a drawer underneath for all the bits and pieces, and my Triton Router. I do like the router table when I am routering rebates for windows and doors and things like that. It's a great piece of kit to have. One of the few projects up here that I made before I started the YouTube channel, so I never got around to filming making that. But watch this space, there might be another one coming soon. And then once we turn around from this end, as I said, it's quite busy. This wall, I've got the Velux window in the roof here, which is lovely to have a little bit of air circulation and natural daylight. And now this top here, again, like the other bench on the other side, is really just for storage. It's actually looking quite tidy at the moment. A load of pocket hole stuff, my Craig jigs, pocket hole stuff, and the Evolution mitre saw, which I don't really use now. The only time I really use that is if I have my Benchdog system set up to cut sort of 21mm timber, which is the main stock I use. If I just need to cut something a bit thicker, I'll just cut it with that. But other than that, I don't really get used that much. As plain as they are, the roof trusses, but every now and again they come in useful. So rather than making a dedicated rack for my clamps, I just clamp them all up to the underside of the rafters. So that's where they're all sat. Various, it's the same actually. All the rafters, if you look down the roof, they're all got clamps attached to them at some point. And that's it then. Under there there's just ordinary family storage. There's a bit of hardware under there, and then some more. Them OSB boxes are just Christmas decorations. And in a nutshell, that's it. We've been full circle. It's not a big space. I seem to get the most out of it. There is some things I need to tidy up. There's a couple of things I want to do with this end. There's some tool storage I want to improve on, and I still have a little idea in the back of my mind for a couple of more machines, but we'll see about that. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you like that, give me a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see some more of my content, press the and if you'd like to see some more of my content, press the subscribe button, and I'll be serving some more videos up for you soon. Until then, bye.